Hi everyone, this is Eagle News. I'm Ralph Cornell in Washington. It's Saturday, October 21st, 2023 here in the nation's capital. The week's recap begins with United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urges rapid, unimpeded humanitarian access to the besieged Gaza Strip. This as Israel keeps up its retaliation for Hamas's attacks on October 7th. There are 2.4 million people residing in the territory. Guterres says humanitarians need to get aid in and distribute it safely. The Rafah border crossing between Egypt and Gaza was bombed 4 times by Israeli aircraft last week. It is the only route in or out not controlled by Israel. U.S. President Joe Biden says up to 20 of the hundreds of trucks waiting in the Egyptian side of the border will be let in as a start. UN Humanitarian Chief Martin Griffiths estimates that about 100 trucks per day are needed to meet the needs in Gaza. The UN says the first aid delivery into the besieged Gaza Strip through the Rafah crossing will be today or so. Despite the over 1,000 Canadians able to flee Israel on assisted departure flights, some were not as fortunate. Joshua Santillana tells us about the Canadian casualties in the war-torn region.
As of Monday this week, 5 Canadians have been confirmed dead in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. 22-year-old Israeli-Canadian Shir Georgi was killed during the Hamas attack of a music festival near the Israeli border with Gaza. 22-year-old Canadian Ben Mizrachi was killed at the same event. He was about to start university in Israel and served the country's National Defense Force. 33-year-old Jewish Canadian Alexander Luck was also killed at the same music event protecting the people he was with at the time. 33-year-old mother and wife Adi Vital Kaploun died in her communal farm after she convinced her killers to spare her 2 children and told her father and husband to stay hidden. And the recent reported victim, 21-year-old Israeli-Canadian Neda Epstein, died protecting his fiancée from a grenade tossed at them. The Canadian government is currently trying to evacuate more Canadian citizens and permanent residences from the West Bank via Jordan. More than 1,000 Canadians have left Israel on assisted departure flights since the October 7 attacks. Joshua Santillana, Toronto, Ontario. Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In other news, Australians have soundly rejected a proposal to give the country's Indigenous people a greater voice in government. In a referendum, the proposal to acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders went down to defeat after 59% of voters said no. Morgan Goodfellow speaks to some voters who were hoping the results were different. Take a look.
With the country's rejection of the Indigenous voice referendum, let's find out how Australian residents projected the outcome to be.
This is all about the Indigenous people. It's not about those that arrived 200 or so years ago, 665,000 years worth of history. So the desired outcome would be listening and opening our hearts to the fathers and mothers of this land.
The yes referendum and the establishment of a voice will be very positive. It's a combined pulling the country together. It's a step forward. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I think it's a really positive way to start. And I think listening and involving those First Nations peoples in the decisions that are so important to them, involving a pre-legislation is critical to get in and not waste time like we have in the past.
What unifies us all as a nation is the recognition of 65,000 years. There is no downside in this referendum. It will have almost no impact on most people's life, or no impact, but it will mean so much to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Australians are good, decent people. Walk with us, join with us, and vote yes tomorrow.
So a yes is a step forward and a step forward together.
It's been something that's really struck me hardcore to my essence as a person. And I feel that today, for me, it's about being honest. It's about getting out there, talking to people, and we need to build consensus about our future as a nation. And I think this is a really important step as to how we're going to go forward as a nation, both locally and internationally.
All 6 states rejected the referendum, with the no vote leading. Indigenous Australian leaders point to misinformation contributing to the referendum's defeat.
One of the reasons I think we didn't get the yes vote was people had misinformation for a start, and a lot of people don't know about Aboriginal people. They don't live in our communities, they don't work in our communities, and they don't know what we go through, they don't know the extent of dispossession, and they don't know the history.
3.2% of Australia's population comprises of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. That's more than 800,000 Indigenous people co-inhabiting the land. Morgan Goodfellow, Townsville, Australia, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Meanwhile, back here in the US, fall has arrived, and in a few weeks, winter will follow. Mala Simbulan tells us how Pennsylvania is preparing the state for the not-so-friendly colder months. Mila?
Winter is coming, and it is always important to prepare, plan, and coordinate. Each year, the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission readies itself to confront the winter elements. This by properly preparing its entire fleet of trucks, plows, and salt spreaders, plus training more than 425 licensed equipment operators. All of this so that they are ready to activate 24/7 staffing this fall. Turnpike traffic and weather operations are preparing as well. The team's focus is to fully understand road conditions and keep the turnpike system free of snow and ice. With more than $197 million budgeted for this winter's statewide operations, Pennsylvania's Transportation Department is ready. From deploying about 4,700 on-the-road workers to handle more than 700,000 tons of salt to salt deliveries throughout the winter. Motorists are reminded to prepare for wintry weather. Have supplies in your cars before heading out, like food, water, blankets, extra gloves and hats, cell phone charger, hand or foot warmers, windshield brush and scraper, and any specialized items like medications or baby and pet supplies. Mila Simbulan, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
For this year's celebration of World Sight Day, the World Health Organization launches a free app to check how a person's eyes work, close up and at a distance. Russell Farah tells us more on Health is Wealth.
Did you know that at least 2.2 billion people have vision impairment? Yes, either near or distance vision impairment. And the World Health Organization says at least 1 billion of these cases could have been prevented or addressed by either eyeglasses or cataract surgery. For this year's celebration of World Sight Day, WHO introduces Who Eyes. It is a free app for the public to check how well they can see things close up and at a distance. It also offers tools on how eyes can be protected. The app checks visual acuity. Visual acuity measures how well the eye can distinguish shapes and details at a given distance. It is the most common assessment of visual function. It is a simple, non-invasive measure which is critical to determine if someone has a vision impairment. And many people with vision loss are unaware of it. Who Eyes targets the entire population aged over 8 years. It does not, however, replace the need for regular eye checks by an eye care professional. WHO says the app's primary objective is to encourage people to seek out eye care. The Who Eyes app can be downloaded for free both on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Roselle Feria, Washington, D.C. Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Papua New Guinea Prime Minister James Marape visits China. The trip aims to strengthen bilateral ties and explore opportunities for cooperation between the two nations. Eko Oteleze Kinyola has the story on Oceania at a Glance.
Chinese President Xi Jinping invites Papua New Guinea Prime Minister James Marape to attend the Third Belt and Road Forum for International Development and Cooperation. Marape encourages China to facilitate reciprocal visa waiver agreements for ordinary passport holders to join the Papua New Guinea APEC business travel card process. Trade between the two nations is estimated at 13 billion kina. This makes China Papua New Guinea's most significant trading partner besides Australia. Marape says this meeting is a great development feat that Papua New Guinea would benefit from China, especially through transfer of skills, know-how, and technology to build his nation's growing economy.
From Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Eko Hortaleza Quinola, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Tens of thousands of struggling Argentines scour the streets to turn trash to treasure. Elise Danielle reports on Down to Earth.
Argentine recyclers like this woman weave their trolleys expertly through the streets on the outskirts of Argentina's capital. They stop every few steps to sift through trash. These early birds search for recyclable cardboard or plastic. They are an army of what is called cartoneros. They are the tens of thousands of Argentines who brave the streets to find sellable things from other people's trash. Since the pandemic and an economic crisis, the number of those turning to the informal recycling industry have exploded. Recyclers have mixed feelings about the job. At times, it can be exhausting. Many times, it is a beautiful experience. They say being on the streets and doing what they do require much strength and courage. But with the presidential election coming up, one recycler says hope for change is overrated. She says whoever wins, she will still have to wake up at 6 in the morning to go hunt for recyclables, so at the end of the day, they'll have food on the table. Elise Danielle, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Our next story is guaranteed to deliver a punch. As a group of boxing enthusiasts in Corpus Christi, Texas are putting on their gloves to fight back against Parkinson's disease, Jane Kathleen Gregorio introduces us to this nonprofit health and wellness program that helps Parkinson's patients regain their strength and mobility. Here's Community Care.
Did you know that each year, nearly 90,000 people in the U.S. are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, also known as PD? According to the Parkinson's Foundation, almost 1 million people in the U.S. are currently living with the disease. This number is expected to rise to 1.2 million by 2030. PD is a movement disorder that affects mobility, causing tremors, slowness, trouble walking, trouble sleeping, depression, and speech problems. Thanks to Rock Steady Boxing, a nonprofit 501c3 program, Parkinson's patients no longer have to face their illness sitting down.
With Parkinson's, over time they lose their dopamine. And this program, Rock Steady Boxing, has figured out that with every punch they throw, they create their own dopamine, which is what they're lacking. So every day, 4 days a week, they come in. We have a class of about 15 right now. They come in every day and they box. And when they leave, their dopamine levels are filled back up. Our oldest boxer is 92. She is in the ring every day, 4 days a week. Our next youngest is Yanni, and she's 82. And she usually blows my hand back with her right hooks. We celebrate birthdays, we celebrate life, and we fight back Parkinson's all day.
Benny Flores, co-owner of London Martial Arts and Fitness School, opened his doors to the Rock Steady program to help more people in his community.
Been coaching 23 years, 12 years I've owned a business, and about 6 years ago, Jim Hughes asked me, do you know what Rock Steady Boxing is? I don't know what it is, but I care, I love, and Once he hooked me up with Andy, did they really explain to me what Parkinson's is? And I just said, you know what, this is what's being provided. God wants me to do this. Let's go. You know, it's an everyday workout. It's an everyday thing. We enjoy being around each other. We're hitting the bags every day. We're singing karaoke almost daily. We're yelling out loud all the time. And camaraderie is the most important thing. Having camaraderie, having other people, and the other people that are also dealing with the same issues. And this is a fight that they've been in their entire life, or since they've been diagnosed anyway. And they need somebody in their corner. And that's what I want to do. I want to be in their corner. My coaches are all here. We all want to be in that corner. We just want to be a part of the fight. We want to be a good corner man. We want to be what God's purpose is for us, you know, just tools, you know.
Been coming for 7 years.
And what results have you seen since you've been coming here?
Oh, I have increased strength and I have more mobility. I'm more active. And I walk a mile on the treadmill when I come every day before I start exercising. So if you have Parkinson's, you can get very isolated, staying at home with you. So many things you can't do, you get so tired. But when you get into boxing, it gives you strength and positioning and helping you stay active. But really, this is like my family here. And it's just a good place to be.
Just the physical activity, the camaraderie, the faith, the friendships, the grace that I see on an everyday basis. It is every day. You will see miracles happen here. The minute you're diagnosed, I want you here in the gym. I don't want you to go home and think about Parkinson's. I want you here in the gym fighting it back because it makes a difference.
In Corpus Christi, Texas, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Today, we get to join Eagle News friend Ryan Tolentino as he takes a sweet sightseeing trip to Switzerland. Here's this week's Adventure Awaits.
Hello everyone, I'm Ryan Florentino and welcome back to Europe. This time we're going to be exploring the tourist spots here in Switzerland.
So in the Geneva station, underground, platform 4, we heading. So that's where we going. So here we are in Europe once again.
Aside from the main cities, Switzerland is a rural country. And what better way to enjoy the scenery than to travel by train? During our trip, we stayed in Itzewald, a village along the shore of Lake Brienz. Breathtaking views can be seen across the lake and even up the local mountains. Itzewald is a tiny village in Switzerland with less than 500 residents. It's filled with picturesque Swiss houses and sprinkled with lakeside cafes and restaurants, offering views of the snow-capped mountains in every direction. Moving on, we took the train to visit Schilthorn, a summit in Europe, in the Bernese Alps of Switzerland. It overlooks the valley of Lauterbrunnen in the Bernese Oberland, and is the highest mountain in the range, lying north of the Seffinenfurg Pass. The Schilthorn lies above the village of Muren, from where a cable car leads to its summit. Many scenes were filmed at Piz Gloria for the 1969 James Bond 007 film on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Piz Gloria is located on top of Schilthorn at 2,970 meters high. Like most others, I tested my fear of heights by venturing along the mountain face. 6:45 in the morning. Now this location may be familiar to some. Yes, that's right. This spot in Itzewald was the set for some scenes featured in the popular Korean drama series Crash Landing on You. Next, we stopped in the valley to head up to the summit of Grindelwald. Cable cars have been a lucrative source of income for the tourism industry and provides for the local economy. Here again, you can test your fears of heights by walking along the suspension bridges. The Mannlichen is a 2,343-meter mountain in the Swiss Alps, located within the canton of Bern. It can be reached from the Wengen by the Wengen to Mannlichen aerial cableway.
Oh, this is our time. That's where we're going to be at.
So, back to Geneva, we were able to have a quick walk from the station along the streets to visit the Lake Geneva.
Reporting from Switzerland, Europe, my name is Ryan Florentino. Hope you enjoyed. Take care and stay safe always.
From Switzerland, we end today's episode in France with our photo of the week. This is the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Built from 1887 to 1889, this 984-foot wrought iron lattice tower is named after its engineer, Gustave Eiffel. Locals call it La Dame de Fer. Thank you, Matt Ocampo, for sharing this photo. Thank you all for joining us again. If there are any stories or topics you want us to share with you, just comment below. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and X at Eagle News Live. I'm Ralph Cornell. We live in extraordinary times. Stay happy and healthy, everyone.